everybody. This is Nir Bashan, author of The Creator Mindset, a McGraw-Hill release. I have fellow McGraw-Hill authors, Gina Greenlee and Margaret Greenberg, who released a book called The Business of Race. Very important. It's The Business of Race. How to create and sustain a anti-racist workplace and why it is actually good for business. Margaret, Gina, welcome to McGraw-Hill's Coffee Break.
Thank you, Nir, for the invitation.
No problem. Awesome. Let's get right to it. Why this book and why now, Gina?
On May 26, 2020, the day after the murder of George Floyd, my friend of more than 2 decades, Margaret Greenberg, called me and said, "Gina, how are you? I'm thinking about you. What is going on in the world today?" And she left space for me to share my sadness, my fear, my frustration. And I shared some stories of my experiences as a Black woman in the United States, racial profiling, and more. And she was deeply moved by these experiences. And in the more than 2 decades that we've been friends, Nir, Margaret and I, believe it or not, have never talked about our racial identities and how they shape our worldview and our lived experiences. So when she left that space for me, she was so moved, she suggested that I write something. And I said, no, if I write that, I will be summarily dismissed as the stereotypical angry Black woman. And I know you're moved by my stories, my dear friend. However, were you to write about them, you would be summarily dismissed as the privileged white woman. Let's write something together so that we can be heard in this moment. And why this moment, Nir? Because race has historically been something that we don't talk about in this country. It is the dirty little secret, or maybe not so little secret, that we sweep under the rug and pretend that this country was not built on slavery. And so we don't talk about it at work. But the murder of George Floyd and the hundreds that have been murdered since then have changed that. Businesses can now no longer look away, and with the rise of social media, are being held accountable for more than just public statements. Black Lives Matter hashtag, for more than a tab on a company website. They're being held accountable for fundamental change in the status quo. That's why now.
I love it. Margaret, why is it so important to hold a business accountable for race issues?
Because accountability is the name of the game for any strategic business priority. And we have to begin treating racial equity like we would treat any other strategic priority. So, for example, ask yourself, how does my organization currently begin any strategic business priority? What do? We suggest you use the same approach. And why accountability? It's because accountability is achieved through measurement. And we posit that the E between the D and the I, right? E, the equity, is a measurement of how you're progressing on your diversity and your inclusion. And how and what you measure and when will be a function of deep conversations within your organization and not performed in a vacuum, but in collaboration. And the other piece of accountability, Nir, is that you need a baseline. In business, no matter what we're doing, we always need to understand what is our current state before we begin trying to change anything, right? And so just as individuals need to prepare themselves or ready themselves for race work, so do organizations. And assessing organizational readiness can really serve as a guidepost for how you approach race work. And then you can measure it over time. In fact, we actually recommend a particular tool, and it's free, by the way, called the Annie E. Casey OSA, and that stands for Organizational Self-Assessment. And this is one assessment you can use to go about getting your baseline. And then once you have that, you need to also take a fresh look at your KPIs, your key performance indicators. That's a staple in every large business, and we need to apply those same standards to creating and sustaining a racially diverse workplace.
Got it. Gina, business people like to improve their bottom line. Is this going to help?
Oh, absolutely. There's so much research out there conducted by major groups such as, Citicorp, Deloitte, BCG, Boston Consulting Group, that demonstrate unequivocally for decades that organizations that have not just general diversity, but also racial diversity, outperform in just about every measure organizations that do not. Profitability, innovation, retaining talent. And so even if this is not something that you feel in your heart, if you don't feel this is a moral imperative, it's a business imperative if you want to remain competitive.
Love it. You touched on innovation, my personal favorite subject ever. Margaret, how did this help you become more creative?
Well, first of all, Gina's an artist, so her creativity shines continuously. I'm pretty creative in some other ways as well, but creativity shows up in the business of race again and again in the interviews that we did with more than 24 business leaders. And it showed up really in 3 ways, Nir: experimentation, reimagination, and disruption. So first, experimentation. What do we mean by that? We're talking about prototyping. When it comes to racial equity, prototype, try something, see what happens, see what works, what doesn't work, and know you're going to make mistakes. That's a key part of any creative process, is you're going to make mistakes, and race work is no different. That's creativity in action. Second is this notion of reimagining the workplace, right? And what it can be. That's an act of creativity. In the business of race, we challenge businesses to reimagine not just, their recruiting policies, right? And how do we bring people of color in? But we actually ask them to reimagine, what does procurement look like? What does advertising and marketing look like? What does philanthropy look like when we are truly embedding racial equity into our business, not an appendage over here somewhere, but in really embedding and integrating it into our business? And then lastly, this notion of disruption, which is crucial to creativity, right? Disruption often results in cataclysmic innovation, right? Creating new standards against which entire industries measure themselves or define themselves. We've seen that again and again with innovative companies like Amazon, Netflix, Uber. We saw it most recently with the pandemic, where we all had to adapt to this, working remote environment, as well as restaurants that had to totally reimagine how they deliver their services, right? So disruption is fundamental. Creating and sustaining a racially equitable workplace is an act of disruption. You are disrupting the status quo, and this is something that we do every day in business. We have to remain competitive.
Margaret, Gina, amazing points. I am so excited about this book. I love how you guys are embedding these principles into the very foundation of a business and allowing them to be part and parcel to the trajectory of the organization. This is brilliant stuff. Again, the book is called The Business of Race: How to Create and Sustain an Antiracist Workplace and Why It's Actually Good for Business. Thank you so very much for being on McGraw-Hill's Coffee Break.
Thank you, Nir.
Thank you, Nir.